It is time for a Diamond League Zerg vs Terran, and what I got for you today is a match right here on Blood Boil. Spawning in the northwest corner, playing with the red Zerg drones, we have none other than Alchemist. And actually, he is playing with a couple of drones, but he is not producing any additional ones. So I think that indeed, he is gonna go for a very early spawning pool right here at 12 supply. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, we have his opponent. He's playing with the blue Terran pieces, and he goes by the nickname of Shadow Devil. Now the question is Shadow Devil gonna send an SCV scout across the map? There's about a 50% chance that this SCV that's building up the depot is gonna be sent across the map as well, and he needs to know that this is happening. A 12 spawning pool, not nearly as scary when you figure out that it is going on, and while the barracks indeed does get produced by a new SCV, a newly acquired one, there is one moving across the map right now, and this hero SCV will shortly figure out that there is indeed a 12 spawning pool going up on the other side of the map. Now the thing is, Alchemist, of course, he doesn't need to go all in with this. He can just simply make 6 to 12 or so Zerglings and just drone behind. That is totally viable. So we'll see how much he is gonna commit into this. He's already producing 6 Zerglings right now, so saving up that larva, and he's gonna be capable of sending those straight across the map to try and deal some damage. Now here's the thing. The SCV is indeed rallied. He's gonna go into the main base, and he will shortly figure out exactly what's going on. And actually, Alchemist! I mean, I just said you can go all in with this. You don't have to. He is sending all the workers that he's got, with the exception of 2, straight across the map, and he's gonna try and do as much damage as he can. Now, the SCV, it was going on a bit of a rally point right here. I don't know if Shadow Devil hasn't yet realized that something weird is going on. At the very least, it should see right now that there are only 2 drones mining, so something weird is happening. You cannot go for the command center. Do not go for the command center. Shadow Devil, do not go autopilot. You've scouted. You've scouted, but you're not actually scouting. You've got the information, but you're not doing anything with it. You gotta start up that wall. You gotta start up that wall. And that means that I think that is not gonna happen. And Alchemist is gonna be able to send all of the drones inside of the main base of his opponent. He's gonna be capable of dealing a lot of damage right now. Zerglings are gonna be able to trade with these SCVs really nicely. Now, there is a single Reaper here trying to do as much damage as he can. The single Mule apparently trying to fight as well for the Terran Dominion. It's not going to be able to do any damage, of course, because it doesn't have an attack animation. But regardless, a ton of these SCVs will end up falling. The Reaper, though, already picking up 6 kills right there in total. And actually, all things considered, this is not even looking all too terrible right here for the Terran player in blue. I mean, a ton of these drones did end up falling there, right? But the thing to keep in mind is that, of course, there are still mules, and mules are extremely valuable. And on top of that, even though he started up that second command center, and I didn't really agree with it, if the SCV that's building it does not get target fire down, I mean, I guess it could be an advantage. I mean, if he's getting that second orbital command right, and he's gonna be capable of starting up those mule production on 2 bases, he's gonna be in a phenomenal position. And I think that even though the SCV ended up falling there just in a nick of time, the Reaper will be able to clean everything up with 18 kills there in total. But I can't help but wonder what would have happened if he just put up a single depot right here at the top of the ramp to just simply, you know, get a little bit of a safer situation going. If the drones wouldn't have been able to go into... He gives the GLHF right now. Alright, so it looks like this is where the game begins. I mean, I can't help but wonder, though, if that's scouting it... Like, here's the thing. I see this a lot, right? Professional gamers do this all the time, right? They go for an SCV scout, or a drone scout, or a probe scout, or an overlord scout, or any kind of scouting whatsoever. But then they, you know, follow it up with actual, like, responses. They go for, you know, information, and then they respond to the information that they gather. Shadow Devil right here went for the autopilot, and while apparently he managed to stop that pressure, he could have done it so easily. He could have just made a depot first and then the command center. He would have been in a brilliant position. Regardless, though, all things considered right now, I don't think he can really complain about this. One of these overlords will indeed end up falling here as well. There's a single SCV just sort of keeping close track of the perimeter, and there's another one right here on the in-base expansion. Shadow Devil, I guess, thrown a little bit off guard with this weird opener. But regardless, meanwhile, on the other side of the map, we simply see Alchemist making a lot of workers. And interestingly enough, even though his opponent currently, you know, does have a solid amount of economy, he's actually currently ahead when it comes to the worker count. I mean, he's just about to finish up 2 more. That will put him at a slight little bit of an advantage. Now, I'm not entirely sure, though, about this much gas. I was gonna say, you don't really need that much gas right now. I think that Alchemist really wants to focus on as many drones as he possibly can without really dying. Now, the second orbital command will shortly finish up, and that means that Shadow Devil is going to be capable of landing those mules, and he's going to be, you know, he's going to be able to mine here for a very significant amount of income. Reaper, meanwhile, made its way across the map here. One of the drones is running awfully low, trying to morph it into a building. Nice timing right there by Alchemist, preventing one of his drones from dying, which is very nicely done. Roach Warren does go down, but of course Shadow Devil is completely scouting exactly what is going on. Now, as we already learned, he's probably not going to respond to it, but still, he knows roughly what his opponent is up to. He recognizes that there's only really a single base up for his opponent, and that is a big amount of information right there already. I would actually love to see Shadow Devil just simply land that command center on the low ground here shortly once he finishes saturating the main base, because he is looking really solid. Going for that factory follow-up right now as well. He's already producing 2 Marines at a time, and he is going for that second refinery now too in the main base. So he's going to be capable of ramping up that production, and he's looking about a good minute or two ahead right now on his opponent. And that is, of course, where huge, amounts of opportunities lie when you are playing the Zerg versus Terran matchup. It's all about the Zerg player, not getting the amount of workers that he so desperately wants. And I mean, given the fact that Alchemist decided to donate a bunch of them in the earlier part of the game, he's going to be in a pretty solid position right now. We do see that Evolution Chamber follow-up, interestingly enough. I wonder if Alchemist is planning to go for maybe a bit of an Overlord drop. I'm not entirely sure where he would go ahead and do exactly that. I mean, there's a single Overlord overlooking this pass right here to see whether or not the natural is landing. But I think he's just simply going to use it to get maybe +1 attack on either his Roaches or the Zerglings. We'll keep an eye out on exactly what he's got going for this in just a minute or so from now. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, we do see that second barracks follow-up. We see a reactor going down on that factory, so he's going to be able to produce those juicy Widow Mines, and on top of that, of course, the Starport as well. So really, Shadow Devil, I think he's doing all the right things. He's just simply ramping up the production without really taking any risks. I don't think he really needs to move across the map just yet. I don't think he really needs to do that just yet, until he gets, a little bit more, maybe a couple of medevacs out. I actually would love to see the switch over right here on that factory as well, and actually skip out on those Widow Mines for now. Yeah, there we go. Shadow Devil is indeed planning to start double producing medevacs instead, which is a whole lot safer here. Because if you send out the medevacs, right, and you can bring the Marines with you, you got to be capable of pressuring the Zerg into not making drones, and that really is what his top priority should be right now, preventing the Zerg player from getting all of these workers out. The thing is, of course, hitting supply blocks, I don't think that's really worth it. I think that kind of hurts. Meanwhile, we do see that Baneling nest going down. There's also a third hatchery planted right now on the low ground expansion, and the in-base one, I mean, is already being saturated right now as well. I quite like the setup, to be honest, all things considered, from Alchemist, even though he gave away a lot of his workers in the earlier part of the game, right? And he, ended up killing a little bit more, I guess, as well, but in the end, he just ended up, taking a huge loss there, just simply because of the Terran Mule. He's gonna be droning up very greedily here, and this is nicely done. If you manage to get this many workers out, it's very nice. I'm just starting to get a little bit worried here for once these medevacs do start moving across the map. And it looks like actually the Marines are already loaded up. They're already making a move for it. 16 Zerglings are currently being morphed in as well. But, I mean, that's 14 Marines right here. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that Stimpack is not done just yet. So while this does look like your standard run-of-the-mill 16 Marine drop, it's not actually. This is more or less like a pressure right here to try and do a little bit of damage. But if he can abuse some service area and maybe fight in between the mineral patches, there is still a good chance that he can deal some damage. And actually, Zergling speed is also not done. So this is going to get really messy very, very quickly. Nice target firing right there on that medevac. Medevac is running awfully low. That does mean that some of these Marines will not be able to get on out of there, but all things considered, they are shooting down and gunning down a lot of those Zerglings anyway, and while a couple of them do end up paying for that with their lives, I think that was a reasonable trade after all. But I'm actually quite liking the position right here for Alchemist. I mean, shooting down a medevac, it's a big deal. Usually the medevac is the one unit from Terran that allows them to move towards that late game. At some point you want to stop making medevacs and transition towards like Vikings and Liberators and those kinds of units instead. You don't really want to have infinite amount of medevacs, really. So losing one of them is actually a rather big deal. Now luckily for the Zerg player as well, these are merciful Marines. They don't care about that, floating, pus ball, I guess. I don't really know exactly what Overlords are filled with. Maybe someone can let me know down below in the comment section, because apparently it hasn't been killed just yet. But I'm starting to get a little bit worried for this guy's life as well. Although the Marines, nope, they are on attack move this time around. They will be able to gun it down, and that Overlord will indeed end up popping. Alchemist did finish up his lair. He's just about to finish up Zergling speed as well right now, right around the 10-minute mark. He's starting up the +1 melee after finishing up the +1 carapace, and I think that he's actually planning to get rather aggressive here. Stimpak is still not done just yet, and I actually quite like this position here, all things considered. I mean, he did catch a bunch of these Marines out in the middle of the map, and while there is a siege tank here ready to try and engage against this as well, I think a couple of these Marines, even though they've got families, they will also end up getting killed. And all things considered, I mean, even though Shadow Devil was very far ahead, and I would definitely still call this an advantage for him right now as well, he's not been playing this very well as a follow-up, and Alchemist, he's just simply been making drones, and we all know the power of drones. Now here's the thing, there was a bunch of, you know, siege tanks ready to shell away at all of these Zerglings as well as the Banelings if they do decide to get a little bit closer. So it does look like he will be warded away here, at the very least for right now. Shadow Devil now also securing his third base location. He's starting to mine with 4 mules here, and very shortly I think we can see that income graph go heavily in favor right there of the Terran player. Of course, these mules, they will bring in the resources, many more so than the Zerg drones can. And even though Terran is once again looking like it may be planning to move out here, I think that an Overlord indeed could overlook all of it, and the Zerg is going to be fully aware of exactly what is going on. He's just simply transitioning like this is going to be a normal game, like that, you know, that drone pool didn't just happen in the earlier part of it. He's getting up to Aspire, he's getting up to 1-1, he's getting up to the Baneling speed, and he's got a decent amount of production right now. He's starting to spread creep as well, but still, Shadow Devil, I mean, the supply counts aren't lying, right? He's just simply got more income, he's got a good amount of units, but all things considered, he does need to be careful, because the longer that this game goes on, the more and more the Zerg player has a chance to just simply pull back ahead. Banelings are loaded into an Overlord right here, and it looks like they're going to be dropped off inside of the main base here of the Terran player. Terran player is not a very fast player, it seems like, so far. Yeah, on average, he's been rocking 138 PM, same I guess for his opponent, but all things considered, there's only a handful of Marines here, or a handful of SCVs, and it looks like the Banelings don't really care. Are you kidding me? Is this really going to deal damage? Come on, you guys are... You're Diamond League! Come on now, guys! Come on now, that was... What? Shadow Devil! What's going on here, my man? First, you scout exactly what's going on, and while his macro is good, right? You know, save for the 1200 gas that he's got currently, his macro is really good, and I think that's the reason why he's in Diamond League as well. He's great at spending. He definitely needs to ramp up that map vision a little bit more in the responsive play. Regardless though, the Zerg player currently not macroing very well at all, racking up to 2,000 resources already, but the question is, does it matter? The Banelings are desperately trying to connect with as many of these Marines as they can. They're doing a great job at exactly that, and Shadow Devil, I mean, while he just, you know, barely, narrowly escapes with a handful of Marines, I'm starting to get a little bit worried here because more and more Zerglings will shortly be spawning here as well. One of these queens, however, will get gunned down here for sure. A couple of drones now also under fire, but of course there's more than enough medevacs to just simply evacuate and get on out of here. And I would love indeed to see a scan and just simply see these tumors being taken care of as well. Get it, get it, get it, get it, get it, get it! Nope, okay, not gonna be the case. Reinforcing Marines, however, have arrived, but I think that the Zerglings are a little bit too well upgraded. 1-1 is not done for the Terran player just yet, and even though the Zerg, once again, right, supply-wise is very far behind, he is not out of the running just yet. 1-1 upgrades most definitely are extremely good, and without the Terran player finishing his just yet, Shadow Devil is gonna be in a little bit of trouble if he takes a wrong engagement. All things considered though, he's still very far ahead right now in the supply counts. There's not a whole lot of workers mining here in the natural, but we've already seen the splitting from the Terran player. It's not been phenomenal whatsoever, but the pickup right there in the nick of time, definitely very solid. Queens, however, gonna be able to shell away, or spine away, I guess, at these medevacts as well, at the very least, shooing them out of their base so far, and it looks like we have once again arrived at a little bit of a lull in this match. Shadow Devil is actually starting to run low in the main base right now as well. He's gonna have to look for a fourth base if he continues, if he wants to continue mining, that is. The Zerg player, of course, likewise as well, will shortly be running out of resources in the main base. And while he is currently producing his first bunch of Mutalisk, I think that they can be shut down quite nicely. The thing is, of course, that the Terran player has currently got no vision of this Spire whatsoever, and that means that the Spire can potentially deal a lot of damage. And I quite like, actually, what Alchemist is doing here. Even though he's very far so behind in the supply count, he's trying to make a best of a bad situation. Just simply playing that Mutaling Bane style, trying to connect to the best of his abilities. I mean, he's doing a far better job right now at the macro, and it looks like he's actually heading for the main base. Now, the main base is already starting to run very low, but there's no missile turret to be seen anywhere. Shadow Devil not playing the blind missile turret game, and that's gonna mean that he will be in a bunch of trouble. There's more than enough Marines to defend against it, of course, but these mutas can just simply play a ring around the rosy as long as they possibly want to, as long as the micro is correct. Alright, here we go. A couple of these SCVs immediately picked off, very nicely done. One of the Marines now also getting killed. I think they're once again going after the SCVs though that are indeed mining the gas geysers, so that is definitely looking solid right there. And indeed the Terran player, he's gonna be in quite a bit of pressure. It looks like Alchemist actually not quite going after the SCVs here, but instead decides to prioritize killing a bunch of these add-ons instead, which is very nicely done. This base is looking awfully vulnerable. Rocks are not knocked down either, so that does mean that a ton of these SCVs will end up falling here. And all things considered, I mean, Alchemist, he has been killing tons of workers throughout the majority of this game, and like a true Terran player, a lot of the SCVs will get killed here at the third base as well. Now, I do like this move. At the same time, while the mutas are occupied on the other side of the map, the majority of the Terran's army is indeed moving across. I'm just a little worried because he is moving very deep on creep. There are no scans available. These Banes are going to do so much damage. Nice split there in the nick of time, but those Banes are doing so much. Pushing on creep against the roly-poly Banes. It is far too greedy. Without any scans to clean up that creep, that just simply absolutely overwhelmed the Terran player right there. Those Banelings are going to be able to roll forward. Not even the best Terran players in the world can split against that. And while a couple of the spawning mutas that did get picked off right there, and Alchemist earlier on into this game had like 2 workers left over, he is doing a phenomenal job of playing this one out right now. Still though, flooding tons of resources. I can't help but wonder what this would look like if he would just simply spend his money. He's got 2,000 resources saved up right now, which is much more than he wants to deal with right now. Mutas, however, still available. I think he can easily shut down all of these Marines right now as well. Upgrades still in favor right here of the Zerg player, but there are a lot of reinforcing Marines now. It looks like some of them, however, did stim, and that does mean that they're going to be a little bit weakened. But now that the Metavex are here to heal them back up, all things considered, we're once again back in the running. Both of these players definitely not out of the game just yet, but for the first time in a very long time, Alchemist has indeed, and I think actually maybe the first time in the entire game, Alchemist has picked up a supply lead, making the best of the Mutalisk, really trying to harass as much as he can, and in total 49 SCVs ended up getting killed. Shadow Devil though, I mean, if I can give him one tip, right, Mr. Shadow Devil, there's a great arcade map that allows you to work on splitting your Marines. Marine splits versus Banelings are absolutely crucial. One of the biggest tips though for Terran players out there is, if you're struggling, right, against your Zerg's opponent's Banelings, do not under any circumstance fight on creep. Unless you know for a fact you're gonna be able to take it. But if you fight on creep, the Banelings are simply just, you know, they're just gonna be able to outroll the speed of stimmed up Marines. They're just gonna be able to, you know, easily match that. And while the top of the line Terran players are really good at their Marine splits, right, and they will oftentimes take minimal losses against that, it's an extremely difficult thing to try and achieve. Regardless though, we do still see a huge amount of Marines, or a huge amount of mules rather, mining away at the in-base expansion. That income graph is still looking really nice here for the Terran player, but at the same time, I think the Zerglings may actually be aware of the fact that they may actually be aware of the fact right now that there are going to be more bases here, more than likely located on the southern end. Sadly, the Zerglings do get re-rallied there, because I think that they could have had a field day right here at this fourth base location of the Terran player. Alchemist though just simply trying to run around here with his Mutaling Bane, and I quite like his positioning, making sure that he's got the mutas on a different end of the map than his Zerglings and Banelings. It really allows you to keep control of exactly where the Terran player is going to be located. Another base does get picked off, however, or get picked up right here by Shadow Devil. Once again, he's been doing a good job right here at lowering the amount of minerals that he's got, and while he does have a significant amount of gas, it's not actually all too terrible. He's doing a great job at the very least spending his money. Compared compared to his Zerg opponent in particular. Zerg still floating roughly 2,000 resources. And honestly, if you are, if you are having this issue, right, and you are currently a Diamond League player, just simply spend your money. You're gonna be able to push up to Masters easily. If you are Alchemist in this game, if he would be capable of just simply spending his money, be it by making a macro hatchery or another base or anything along those lines, or just simply hitting the Queen Injects more effectively, he would be in a significantly better position. Shadow Devil, however, now really getting greedy, trying to catch all of these Mutas off guard. Not happening though, as they're once again gonna go into the main base, and it does look like this triggers a big push here from the Terran player. But once again, he is fighting on the creep. These do have centrifugal hooks. They're gonna be able to just simply roll into all of these juicy marine clumps, and there they go again. They're gonna try and, surround all of these units, and while a couple of the Banes do run into the siege tank as well, the Mutas are just simply counter-attacking, and I think that every single last one of these Terran units will get picked off. And even though Alchemist went for a very aggressive drone pool in the earlier part of the game, and Shadow Devil was pretty much doubling him for the majority of the early game when it comes to the supply and the worker count, all things considered, his micro wasn't anything amazing. Now, I don't want to sound mean, but when you're pushing on creep with stimmed up marines, right, that are already a little bit lower on HP, and you don't know where your opponent's banelings are located and no scans ahead, I think you're kind of asking for it. But I guess that he was preoccupied with all of the Mutas that were indeed ravaging his main base. I hope you enjoyed watching this game. If you did, make sure you hit that like button down below, and if you want to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get a notification as soon as I upload more. And other than that, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, alright? And I will see you in the next one.